As your firm grows, your reliance on Excel stops being a hack and starts becoming a financial liability. Because when you're manually consolidating data or tracking revenue in a spreadsheet, you're really not focused on growing. You're just one broken formula away from a crisis. Today, Gayle Nelson joins me. Her background is steeped in finance and she knows exactly how bad data can mess up an entire P&L. And she's here to help you get out of the spreadsheets and into a system that actually works. This is Freeing the Founder.
Gayle Nelson, founder and president of Rapid Cloud Partners. We are a boutique professional services firm that helps our clients with NetSuite, Salesforce, and everything in between, as I say. We help our clients, both domestic companies and global, implement greenfield instances, which means from scratch, right? Or to improve an instance they have to make something more efficient or scalable. And I got into this area of focus, I guess I'll say. I formerly worked at Ernst & Young, got my CPA, came up through the controller, VP of Finance, Director of Finance ranks, ultimately took on a pretty intense implementation of NetSuite just after taking a company public, by the way. And so what a great ride, and fell in love with the system, fell in love with implementations, fell in love with improvements, and just found that was my jam. So I, from there, went on to just take on more projects and like that, and ultimately left the company where I was to start the firm in 2019.
I'm always interested to ask, what is the aha moment that leads you to think, I got to do this for my own clients and my own company?
Oh, my goodness. I was involved after I left the company where I initially put in NetSuite. I was involved with a different system implementation at a different company as an employee. And I remember the consulting group that we worked, very, very professional group, highly thought of, very expensive. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, we could do this so much better with such less waste, right? And so from there, I was inspired, right, to take it to the next level and go out and take my skill set, right, my accounting background, my systems background, my ability to organize things and communicate and drive sort of value for our clients and helping them improve their systems.
So let's dig in with that, because you had just mentioned, systems, driving efficiency, driving scale. What are some of the challenges? What are the biggest challenges that you overcome right now with RCP?
For me, myself internally, or for our clients?
Both.
Oh, okay. For clients, what we typically find is, they are expanding, maybe globally. And so they have multiple instances of I'm going to call it ERP package, or loosely a GL package, accounting package. And so consolidating the results becomes very, very challenging. They pull it out to their accountant's favorite tool, right? Excel. I love Excel, but it's not a great tool for reporting your financial statements. And so typically there's an expansion that can happen, or a startup company has gotten to a certain size and scale. They've got a new investment of money, and so now they can invest in building out that foundational system they need to grow. And so it's a pivotal point for them to select the right system, really select the right partner, right? And then also roll out a system that will be tailored to their needs and meet their design. Yeah.
You know a little bit about my business, and in particular, I help founders, operationalize and install systems. That is the background of the history that you're talking about. You love systems and you have a wealth of knowledge in implementing them. But you can also, I'm sure you can also empathize and sympathize with other founders who have not done this before. Mm-hmm. What advice can you give them with, first off, recognizing that they need to change, and then afterwards recognizing where they start?
That's a great question. There are symptoms typically, right? Within the business, within the reporting, within the accounting team. It could be, your month-end close is taking, 10 days. It could be that you have team members spending an inordinate amount of time on manual processes, or you're keeping a lot of your accounting in Excel. Oh, I've got a system, but I'm doing my revenue recognition, for instance, in Excel. Or I've got multiple systems in my architecture that don't speak to each other. That's one of my, key tenets of all of our implementations. We're not just putting in an ERP. We got to think about all the systems in your environment, and so that we can ensure that we can create a flow of data that's not only seamless but also efficient to create accuracy. So There are various symptoms that are going to lead them to the fact that, hey, this could be beneficial. And maybe it's the report they can't get that they want.
Could you would you be able to share a case study or a use case or a success story, I should say, of someone making that transition and listening to those telltale signs, making a change and deploying automation or whatever the system may be?
Yeah, sure. We had a recent go live, gosh, I think it was just a few months ago for a company. I think we'll be publishing that story soon. But they had, I want to say, 24 instances of QuickBooks where they were caring for individual subsidiaries' financial statements and activity and transactions in 24-ish systems, okay? So imagine you're entering a bill for one of your subsidiaries, and you've got to toggle between each instance, obviously very, very inefficient. They also had different data like set up in each instance. So, when you go to combine those numbers after the fact, if the chart of accounts or some of the other data isn't appropriately lined up, it's extremely cumbersome to do it Excel. And what they found was they were having, anomalies in their roll-up of the financials, and then it would take the accounting team an extra day to sort of just validate it and figure it out. So that was one primary example. Another example we had most recently, and we're going live soon with them, is a company that has pretty robust revenue recognition needs. Not only are they spreading, let's say, an annual fee between date A and date B, but they might have something what's called fair value allocation, which is taking the total value of a contract and spreading it amongst different things that are sold on a contract, okay? And they were maintaining this very complex accounting in Excel and was finding that, guess what? When the auditors came in, errors, right? And it's because it's in Excel. It's very, not that you wouldn't have an error in a system, but it's much, much less likely. So a lot of manual errors, translation, picking up data from one system, moving it into Excel, manual mistakes. So another key solve there. Put it in a system, let the system do it.
What about the key to implementation? Did you share any of that?
Oh, okay. So I'm a big fan of get your A players in each department that is relevant to the implementation and put them on the engagement. Backfill the positions if you need to, depending on how large scale the project is. A lot of times we can have those folks come, 10, 20 hours a week for the duration of the project, and they just need to supplement on the back end. But it is important to have your A players. We also want a combination of people that have been there for a while, as well as fresh ideas. A lot of times a new CFO or controller will come in and I'm going to build a new system. I'm going to hire all new people that I know, okay, and bring them to the project and let everybody else just keep going with the work. It's a mistake. The people that have been there and have been doing the processes and built the systems, even, as they've evolved over the years, typically know where the bodies are buried, right? And they know, the gaps and the pain points that may not be apparent to somebody as new to the organization.
That's interesting. What's coming to mind for me is implementation committee, and that could be totally off, but that's what I actually gathered from that, because you mentioned get your A players together, or of course select A players, but also have a diversity in perspective. Is that
100%? And we have a very sort of standard approach to it. We have different roles that we ask you to fill. An executive sponsor, for instance, this is someone within the organization that is overseeing the project and involved, but they're not going to come to all the design sessions. They're not even going to come every week to the status call. They're coming for the larger meetings and going to chime in when there's a key design decision or something that needs to be resolved, okay? Then you've got sort of the internal PM. You've got somebody that's in the day-to-day, the logistics, helping us break down barriers. We don't want to go to 20 subject matter experts within your organization. It's highly inefficient. Take us through one PM internally. And then we have what we call the SMEs, the subject matter experts that come for each of their departmental areas. I don't want 20 people from the accounts payable department. I want one or two key people that can come and represent. And they can go back to the team and gain alignment on key design decisions, right? And then come back with the decisions. So, and then last but not least, of course, we need testers and other things. But having the right people in the right roles internally and hiring extra resource if you need it is important.
I mean, regardless if it's Salesforce or NetSuite or maybe another tool, it's any systems
Correct.
implementation. That's right.
Correct.
So let's spend a moment on the pitfalls or the landmines. What are the biggest landmines and potholes that you would suggest a business avoid?
Okay. I've got two big ones. One is, it's very cliche, but scope creep, right? It happens every time, and I do my best to, advise, hey, listen, let's put that off till phase 2. If somebody brings up a new concept or a new idea, or we identify a use case in design that wasn't, brought to the surface initially, that's going to be maybe extremely challenging, it might not be part of what I call the 80-20. The majority of the cases, it's sort of not a one-off, but less prevalent. Put it into phase 2. If we can handle it manually, let's do that and deal with it later. Let's not sidetrack the whole project, spend a bunch of extra time and money doing it. So that's one of the first things. The second biggest thing that will sidetrack your project is data. I always say devil's in the data, and I probably should write a post every week on devil's in the data. I have a topic, okay? But it is very, very true. You can design the best system in the world, and if the data is not cleansed and ingested and maintained properly, your system won't work as designed.
So where's the apex, Gayle? Because everything that you've shared, there's nothing I disagree with, but how do your insights apex with change management and the culture that the organization needs to have in order to receive and maintain everything that you've laid out today?
How do we help RCP? Yeah. How does my firm help?
You know what? Let me rephrase that question.
Okay.
What kind of culture in your clients that you serve, what kind of culture do they need to embody to be able to take everything that you've shared with me today and actually deploy it with your team?
Oh, very good question. So we do have a variety of personalities that come to every project engagement, and it is a very interesting mix when you get there, right? Almost always in a project team, some will bubble to the surface that you would not expect throughout the project, particularly in testing, and they just have an eye for this. They have an eye for systems and process, and they tend to come out in the end as sort of a leader in terms of, championing the system after a go live. But what I would say is being open to suggestions from those that have done it before, first of all. What we bring to the table is that, I've done this before. My people have all done this before. And, the gray hairs in the room don't disappear after the sale. I think that happens a lot with some larger firms. They, tend to have the very knowledgeable folks come for the sale, and then maybe some less experienced folks take over, and you don't get the product that you think you purchased.
That's right. So we're in a world of automation and AI. How is the trend towards AI impacting your business, and just generally how it's being received in the marketplace?
Oh, AI is where it's at, right? Everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's looking for ways to incorporate it into their business. NetSuite is, of course, trying to embed AI within the system in areas that make sense. We personally use it a lot for documentation. Why charge a client extra time for us to spend, reviewing or building that content or refining it, right? Let's put our base notes down and let AI refine that documentation. Of course, review it to make sure it's accurate, because AI does have its own mind sometimes. But certainly we're trying to refine our processes and our delivery methods to make it more efficient for our clients using AI. Yeah.
Gayle, final question for you, and I'll draw to a close with this question. What parting advice would you share with an organization who wants to scale, doesn't know how to, knowing full well that you have the expertise to implement a system or systems that'll help them do so?
Make the call. Invest in that business process review, whether it be, with many companies perform them, but honestly, just putting it down on paper sometimes brings everything to light. Wow, I can't believe we've been doing XYZ for so long in such a manual method. So sort of having that review and gathering of requirements is really valuable, I think, for the internal team as well as any SI that's going to help them implement the system.
Actually, final follow-up to that.
Sure.
Do you find that there's apprehension for that decision maker to make that leap? What is causing that barrier?
I think this is a great one. We see this a lot. You've got a news controller, a new CFO who's come into an organization. And when they step forward and say, hey, I believe we need to move forward with this project, it's going to be a transformational change for the business, and we need it because of XYZ. It's their name and their brand essentially associated with that project. If something doesn't go right, they feel like they might be held accountable or it's associated with them. And so sometimes I think there's some reticence to come forward and do that. Let's let somebody else do that. But true leaders stand up and do what's best, I think.
Gayle, appreciate your time so much. Thank you for your insights.